Good morning, children. Today I will be explaining the poem The Road Not Taken by the famous poet Robert Frost. In this poem, the road symbolizes life's journey, and the fork in the road or the crossroad that the poet comes across refers to the choices that we are faced with in life. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. This stanza means that once when the poet was walking down a path in a forest, he came upon a diversion or a place where two paths separated. Since he was only one person, he could travel on only one of the paths. So he stands there for a long time deciding which path to take. Symbolically, it refers to the choice that the poet is faced with in life. He is standing at a crossroad and taking his time to decide which choice he should finally make in his life. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. The poet then finally decides on a particular path or road that he is going to take. And the reason that he gives for coming to that choice or finally deciding on that path is that because it looked grassy and it looked as though it wanted wear. This means that this particular path looked less travelled upon by other people. However, after walking on the path for some time, for a particular amount of time, he realizes that it is also equally used or well worn out. In our life also, we decide upon a particular choice after examining a lot of pros and cons. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. The poet means to say that both the paths looked equally fresh that day. Nobody, it seemed, had walked on that particular path on that morning. So he finally makes his choice and decides to walk on that path, and leaves the other path for some other day. He decides that one day in his life he is going to come back and explore the other path also. But even while he is doing it or saying it, he knows that deep down in his heart it will not be possible for him to come back and explore the other path. Symbolically, he feels that in our life also, once we make a particular choice, it is not easy to come back and start again. We do not get that many options in our life to restart. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. The poet feels that finally, after many years, he will be telling this to people that how he had reached a point in his life where he was forced to make a choice between two things, and the path that he chose was unconventional, or we can say that it was less travelled upon by people, and how that has made all the difference in his life. It has shaped his life the way it is now. So we do not know, it's not clear whether the poet regrets his choice or not. Now we will take a look at some of the literary devices used by the poet in this poem. The first is extended metaphor. You all know what is a metaphor. It is a device in which we make a comparison between two things. Here the paths in a forest are compared to the choices that we are faced with in life. Since this metaphor or comparison continues throughout the poem, we call it an extended metaphor. The second literary device used in this poem is anaphora. It means the repeated and continuous use of and at the beginning of lines 2, 3 and 4. For example, and sorry I could not travel both, And be one traveller, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could. The third literary device used in the poem is alliteration. It refers to words that are together and beginning with the same sound. For example, wanted where.